All of my life I've heard the phrase in politics, voting against their own interest. And I've pointed out for years how people in my part of the world were voting against their own interest whenever they voted Republican. But these days, Trump supporters not only vote against their own interests, but they vote on things they know absolutely nothing about. They have no clue how any of it actually works. But if Donald Trump says it's good, they cheer for it. If Donald Trump says it's bad, they immediately start booing before they even go out and look into it and investigate it for themselves. And that's a very dangerous type of mentality to have, because that type of thinking just leads to a whole bunch of uneducated people voting, and then the powers that be and Donald Trump are in control, and they're suddenly calling the shots for everyone, and they're suddenly in your wife's doctor's office, they're suddenly in your daughter's doctor's office, and you're sitting back wondering how you lost the plot. Well, you lost it because you got so caught up in the story that Donald Trump is telling, and so caught up in this narrative that he's twisting, that you lost sight on what was truly important. And in this next clip, Trump is just saying out loud that he wants to do away with the Department of Education. His followers are sitting back cheering this on, not realizing that it actually works against it. But take a look.
To do with school choice also. Okay. But also, separate from school choice, we're going to take the Department of Education, close it. I'm going to close it. We'll have one person, could be you if you decide to retire.
Okay, Mr. President, here's what bothers
central casting.
here's what bothers me about that. So let's say you have a liberal city, let's Los Angeles, San Diego, and they just decide we're going to get rid of that history. We got new history. This is America built off the backs of slaves on stolen land. And that curriculum comes in.
Then we don't send them money. We would save half of our budget.
Okay, first of all, Donald Trump nor his followers actually understands how the Department of Education works. The Department of Education does not create the curriculum. They don't come up with it. That's not what they're about at all. They're there to fund them in each individual state. So when he says kick it back to the states, it just shows you how ignorant he is on the whole thing. Second of all, the reason why that Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk and all these MAGA talking heads are so against education is because educated voters are not going to vote for them. Once someone learns how the system works, once someone learns how government works, and once someone realizes that there's life beyond the holler they live in and whatever backwoods town they're in, once they learn those things, they're not going to vote Republican anymore. And that's the main reason why that Donald Trump has demonized education. And this has been going on long before Trump come along. I mean, he's just definitely pushed the accelerator down, but this has been going on for years. You listen to Fox News or any right-wing politician, any right-wing talking head, they always talked about it like, well, that Harvard crowd, yeah, those know-it-all smart guys. They've always tried to demonize education, and they do so because the more people gets educated, the less likely they are to vote Republican. And the reason that is because the Republicans' ideas are so behind the times and so irrelevant to today and today's society. But they're continuing to try to push this extreme narrative down everyone's throat, and they're doing so in order to keep power. They don't want to lose that power. And educated voters would cause them to lose power really quick. And, I grew up and I was taught a whole lot of things in my part of the world, grew up hearing a lot of things. When I got old enough to read and understand things on my own and went out there looking for answers, I discovered that a lot of things I was taught growing up and a lot of things I heard people saying in my part of the world growing up weren't true. And there were times that was very uncomfortable for me to hear. There was times that I didn't like hearing it. There was times that I wished it wasn't true what I was hearing, but I had to accept the facts and I had to accept reality. And the more facts and the more reality I accepted, the farther to the left I went. Because if they don't want the facts in their world. And again, they don't want those facts because they don't want to lose control. That's why they went out of their way to demonize education. And they go out here and they try to glorify stupidity. They try to glorify stupid people and make them feel smart. And just because someone says something in a cruel tone, they think, oh, yeah, he got him, he roasted him. Look, you can go out there and say any cruel, cold-hearted, racist, homophobic, misogynistic thing you want to say. You can say it and you can get a crowd to cheer for you. Doesn't make it true. Doesn't mean anything that you just said was true. And I've always talked about, in my part of the world, there's what I call hillbilly smart. And I don't mean that as an insult. I don't mean that as a put down when I say it. There are people in my part of the world who are very smart people in our part of the world. And if you break down on the side of the road, there's guys that can stop and fix your car and they couldn't even explain to you what they did. They couldn't give you the technical answers for what they did, but they know how to do it because they've been around it and they've done it all their life. There's nothing wrong with having that type of smarts. But then to turn it around and say that these people, the guy that can stop on some back road in East Tennessee and help you change a tire, that suddenly you think that guy is smarter than Barack Obama? You suddenly think that that guy is smarter than people who graduated from college? Again, I'm not knocking the dude that can stop and help you fix your truck. I'm not knocking the people that knows how to go about cutting a tree down the best way. That's not what it is. There's nothing wrong with that type of intelligence. But to sit and demonize smart people and to demonize education and put it down, and then these guys over here, oh, they're the smart ones because they helped you change a tire, so they know more than this college-educated person. That's ridiculous. But that's how it gets taught in this part of the world. They demonize and they make fun of the smart people and they glorify stupid people, because the more cruel stupid people are and the more loud they become, the more empowered they feel. And the whole thing is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, the reason why that Donald Trump and MAGA is so against education is because the more you educate yourself and the more you learn, the more you're going to find out that they're lying to you. And of course, they've got their built-in scapegoats. The facts of life are the liberal media. Science is the liberals. It's all controlled and owned by the liberals, and they are trying to tell you something. But here's what I would say. Where is the answers in MAGA's world? Where are their facts outside their little bubble? Where do they have the concrete proof to back up anything they're saying? They're making claims. Sometimes they're saying them in a stupid manner. Sometimes they're saying them in a cruel manner. Sometimes they're saying it in a pretty hilarious manner, and it gets a pop from the audience. But where is the foundation for that bullshit? Where's the facts? They don't have them. And the more that you learn, the more that you educate yourself, the more that you'll realize that it's all talk and it's all rhetoric and it's all designed to keep rich white dudes in power. And they do that by they dupe poor white dudes into thinking that they're smarter than Barack Obama. And it's like that Lyndon Johnson quote that I know I'll butcher and not get right, but it just reminds me of that Lyndon Johnson quote where he said, if you can convince, the poorest white man that he's smarter than the smartest black man, then he'll empty his pocket for you. That's what we're seeing. That's really what we're seeing. And when they come at you with their facts, it's things that they heard Donald Trump or one of these right-wing people cook up somewhere on a website, and they scroll till they find that and they click on it and they think that's real, but it's not. So all I know to do is to continue to try to educate people and to continue to try to educate ourselves, and sort through the information until you get down to the facts. But when you get down to the facts and they don't necessarily go with what your gut was telling you, or they don't necessarily go with what you thought you had figured out, be reasonable enough to go, you know what? I had that one wrong. That's not how things are. And realize, in the words of Reba McEntire, there's life out there. There's other people. There's a whole other world out there. There's a whole frontier that you've not even discovered. I know so many people that never goes past the end of their driveway, but they're worried about what's happening in San Francisco. They're worried about what's happening in New York. They're afraid it's going to trickle down to some little holler they're in. And they're voting against their own interest. And they're doing so because they hear Donald Trump say something. It sounds good. If he's for it, it must be good. If he's against it, it must be bad. And they don't realize that at the end of the day, they're cutting their nose off to spite their own face, because if you do away with the Department of Education, you stop funding education, and it falls into their hands, then you're just going to be taught their rhetoric that's going to keep you in line and keep you under control. And the minute that you learn they're lying to you and try to step out of line, they're going to throw you under the bus, because that's how cults work. So, folks, I want to thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. If you haven't already, be sure to do so. I really appreciate you guys coming along on this ride with me, and I hope everyone has a great week.